If you struggle to write melodies for your metalcore tracks, then today I'm going to talk you through 4 methods that you can use to improve your melodies. First, let's talk about our interval choices. The intervals are just the distances between 2 consecutive notes, and they're actually really important for when you write melodies. We can choose to either use really small intervals, or we can choose to use really big intervals, and which one you pick affects the melody quite vastly. Simpler melodies where you use shorter intervals will actually help with memorability, and larger intervals might help you with making the melody sound more expansive. So what you pick depends on what kind of part you're trying to play. For a repeating kind of melody, like a small motif, you might want small intervals. And then maybe for a solo where you've got more space in the music to kind of express yourself, you might want larger intervals. But it's usually best to combine them to create the most memorable melody. Next, we're going to talk about motifs. Now, I've talked about motifs before, but they're essentially small repeating ideas that come throughout the song or even throughout an album, and they help to bring the listener back to something familiar. So you can use this within a melody itself. For example, if you had a solo, you might start the solo with a particular motif, maybe it's 3 notes up and down or something, and then you end the solo in a similar way. It might not be exactly the same, but the same kind of movement, and that'll help to kind of bring it all together. So you can use these throughout your melody, and it's actually best to spend more time on your motif than on the rest of the melody. If you have a strong motif that you can return to, then the rest of the melody just needs to lead back to that. This is especially true if you're writing vocal melodies or solos. If you have something strong in the motif, you can actually use that to inform the choices you make elsewhere in the melody. So motifs can actually be really simple. If you think about Future Breeding Machine by Meshuggah, the minor second stab things at the beginning are a very simple motif, but they kind of let you know what's coming. So small repetitive ideas like that can actually really help to focus your music. So next, you want to make sure your melodies are memorable. So often when I talk about making metalcore catchy or memorable or whatever, I get some backlash, like people think that metalcore isn't supposed to be catchy. And I've never really understood that, because I think it comes from where people think that it's going to sound like pop music if you try and make it catchy, but that's not really the case. Obviously there's a lot we can learn from pop music, but I think that's probably a discussion for another day. When I say to make things memorable, I just say to spend more time on making things that people are going to pick up on and remember for next time. And this is especially true when talking about melodies, where I often hear people make really like meandering melodies that aren't really going anywhere, don't have a clear start or finish. This kind of like meandering melody thing can work in certain contexts. Of course it can, you know, genres like shoegaze or whatever, where the whole point is to be a bit reserved, a bit ambient, and kind of not really memorable. But for us, when we're making a metalcore track, just a standard metalcore track, having memorable parts isn't a bad thing. It doesn't make it sound like pop music. And I think especially with melodies where it's not like a signature riff in a track where you can just go, ah yeah, that's the track. Us as guitarists are always going to be listening for the riff, but if you want your music to appeal to all metalcore listeners, then you've got to think about the melodies, because that's where most people's ears are going to be going to. And I'm not just talking about vocal melodies, of course, I'm talking about synth melodies, guitar, lead kind of things, or solos, anything like that. And lastly, we've got to talk about how you end your melodies. I hear a lot of people kind of try and overcomplicate the whole ending of their melodies, and they'll end on a weird note or end on some weird complicated part or place in the beat. I think in most cases you can end on a 1, 3, 5 and you're probably going to be safe. And I think especially when you're not used to creating strong melodies, I think that's probably where you should end it. And also there's no harm in just ending on the downbeat. I know a lot of people kind of want to do something a bit different there, and I'm also guilty of that, of course, but I think trying to overcomplicate these things can bite you in the arse a bit. Alright, that's all I've got today. A bit of an unscripted one, but I kind of wanted to talk about this. It's something that people have asked me about in the past. If you need any more help with this, drop me a comment below or check out the first link in the description, and I'll see you later.